Coming to Kickstarter this June, John Haynes at Death's Door, the man who rules the world, takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the standard and variant editions of John Haynes at Death's Door and lots of other great stretch goal rewards on Kickstarter this June. A West Virginia man was charged with murdering 3 of his co-workers at a Maryland machine shop, as well as attempting to murder a police officer who confronted him when he tried to escape. Now, according to police reports, your 23-year-old Joe Louis Esquivel allegedly left the Columbia machine shop after his shift ended, then went into his vehicle allegedly, and then went back into the machine shop, into a break room, where he shot and murdered 3 of his co-workers in a mass shooting. And then after allegedly murdering these individuals, he then got into his vehicle and wanted to flee. And then as police were chasing him, there was a shootout between your Joe Louis Esquivel and members of the Maryland State Police, and one trooper returned fire after another officer was wounded and struck the suspect and subdued him. Now, the police are seeing this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the behavior of Joe Louis Esquivel, his behavior fits right in line with the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I take a critical examination of Joe Louis Esquivel's behavior, it fits right in line with that pattern and profile that I talk about in my chapters about beta male rage. Now, one of the things about beta male rage is that you don't even know how angry this guy is or how long he's been holding a grudge against an individual. Now, one of the big problems with beta males is that they are not very good at communication, and they're not very good at conflict resolution. So many of these guys will be simmering and boiling in anger over a minor slight for months and even years, and most people will not know how angry this guy is about whatever, because he was never raised to know how to communicate with people, and he was never raised to go out here and be able to resolve conflicts. One of the biggest problems with beta males is that they are poor communicators, so it's hard to get a conflict resolved because many of these men fear conflict, and they fear confronting individuals about an issue they are having with another man. So these individuals, what they will do is simmer and boil in anger for extended periods of time, and you will be going about your day minding your business, doing your job, and you won't know how angry this guy is at you, and you won't know that he's been holding a grudge for an extended period of time. And what looks like happened here with your Joe Louis Esquivel is that he probably was holding a grudge against co-workers at the job for an extended period of time, and then he just decided to finally lose it that day and take out all of his frustrations in an explosion of rage where he participated in this mass shooting where he took the lives of 3 of his co-workers. Now, it's clear to me that there was some malice of forethought as related to his behavior, because he had to make a plan with intent to take the lives of his co-workers, because he waited until the shift ended before he implemented his plan. So he had to really think about whether the individuals he wanted to get even with were coming to the facility on that shift, and he had to think about who he wanted to hurt that day when he was on that shift. So he wanted everything to line up so that he could go out here and hurt those who he wanted to hurt, and he could go out here and get the revenge that he wanted. Now, one of the problems with the beta male is he's always thinking about getting his revenge, because he's oftentimes caught up in his feelings regarding an individual, and because he's caught up in his feelings, he never really thinks critically about the consequences of his actions. And that's probably what happened here with your Joe Louis Esquivel as related to his alleged behavior. He probably wasn't thinking critically. He just thought was feeling and just all in his emotions about the plan he had for revenge, and then he thought he was going to make the great escape by running away and driving off an event and not thinking that, oh, you just murdered and took the lives of 3 people. The police are going to come for you. So he wasn't really thinking about that. And then when he got into the confrontation with the police, that's possibly where the reality set in. Yes, he did go out here and wound one of these officers, but these officers are highly trained, and they quickly took him out. And now he's looking at going to prison, possibly for the rest of his life, all because he did not know how to navigate through his emotions. He did not know how to think critically, and he did not know how to problem solve. So this individual, he could have probably stopped by, talked to one of these guys at the job, worked on his issue with those guys, and kept it moving and kept his job. Because these machine operator jobs, this is a job in a skilled trade, and I know from watching many videos from mechanics, this is a job that pays some good money. Unfortunately, this young man really was, again, not really, he was emotionally messed up, and he was so caught up in his feelings, all he was thinking about was getting even with coworkers and not really thinking about working on building a future. Because again, if you're in a skilled trade where you're working in a machine shop as a machine operator, you are in an in-demand job, and you can just easily if things aren't working out at this facility and you're putting in good work, you can just go on and go to another machine shop, or you can go out here and start doing your own work if you go get your own machines. I've heard from many machine operators who say that they go and buy some machines once they save up enough money, and they start doing a little stuff on the side just to make a few dollars, just smoothing down things like an engine block to make sure that it's nice and level. That's a job that you could do. I mean, there's lots of other little machine shop jobs like boring out cylinders, little commission jobs. Unfortunately, beta males never really think critically because they've been raised to feel instead of think, and because they've been raised to feel instead of think. What they do is look to get even with individuals, looking to get revenge on individuals, looking to get into back and forths with individuals, and this is where they wind up messing up their lives and wind up destroying a good career. And that's what happened here to your Joe Louis Esquivel. At 23 years old, he had the whole world in front of him, because machine operators are in an in-demand trade, and he threw away a good job in a trade all because of his feelings. And now, instead of him going to work at a really good job as a machine operator, he's going to be going to the penitentiary, where those guys are going to be working on him with a rod and trading him for Little Debbie snack cakes, Oreo cookies, Fritos chips, cans of Dr. Pepper, and hot and sour ramen noodles. That is the fate that your Joe Louis Esquivel could possibly be winding up facing, because after murdering 3 of his co-workers, he's sure to get a life sentence, and he's going to get a life sentence with no possibility of parole. Now, a lot of people want to sit here and talk about gun control once again, but this is not a gun issue once more. Your Joe Louis Esquivel, according to reports, did not have a semi-automatic or a AR-15 style weapon. No, all he had was a basic pistol. So this basically refutes the whole argument about this being a gun control issue. He basically was using a weapon that would not be on the so-called lists for assault rifles. He was not using one of those weapons, and it proves my point that a beta male will use anything as a weapon, as I've seen in numerous cases that I did for my research on the man crisis. I have heard about these beta males using vehicles like the incel who was in Canada and mowed down 11 people who used a van to participate in his killings. I have heard about a beta male who flew a plane in his ex-wife's house in an effort to get even with her. These guys will use anything as a weapon, and that's why a gun control argument will not stop these beta males from their violence. And the only thing that will really deal with their violence is we're going to have to deal with the dysfunctional state of the American family. The American family is in poor shape, and that's the reason why we are seeing all of this violence, because these males, they have not been raised in a God standard. They have not had a father in their lives in a lot of cases, and in some cases they haven't had any parents at all. They have had no one to give them guidance, no one to give them structure. I mean, here is an individual who had all of the foundations of success. He had a good job and a skilled trade. Unfortunately, he did not have good male life skills, and because he was not raised with good male life skills, he did not know how to conflict resolve in a way that allowed him to stay on a very good job. Even if you have issues with your coworkers, you try to stay out for the year. You try to stay in the job for a year, get yourself a nice reference, and then as things are working with this company, you go looking for a job with another company. That's what happens when you have a man who teaches you about male life skills. He will sit there and teach you, okay, if you're having issues on this job, you just try to bear with it. You sit there and talk to your supervisors if there are issues with people, and try to get the conflict resolved. And if you can't get the conflict resolved, you start making plans for your exit, and you start making plans for where you're going to go on your next job. So these guys, they don't know how to, again, think critically about what they want to do with their lives. They don't know how to think critically about what direction they want their lives to go in. And they really don't know how to go out here and problem solve and think critically about situations. And because they don't know how to do these kinds of things, they go out here, get in their feelings as they're simmering and boiling in anger. Then they explode in rage and go out here and look to do harm to all of those around them, instead of looking to solve the problems that they're having with people. And the problems that they're having with people, again, has to do with the dysfunctional way these males are being raised in these families, where they either are raised by single mothers who are too busy working to teach them anything and don't really know how to teach them anything, or there are no parents at home to sit down and teach these boys the proper ways on how to conflict resolve and how to problem solve. And this is why we are seeing all of this violence all over. And sadly, as I have stated before, the reason why we're seeing all of this violence is because, again, these boys are not being raised in a functional manner to survive or navigate the world. And what we're seeing is an increase in frequency of this violence, because we have over 100 million males from 2 to 3 generations all across this country. And these males have gone from becoming ticking time bombs to becoming landmines all across this country. And as these landmines are all across the country, is what's really scary and what's making people really tense is you don't know if or when these guys are going to go off, or what damage they're going to do. Now, the solution to this man crisis, again, is we have to start investing in our men. And sadly, in our gynocentric girl power society, people are not really taking it seriously that we need to invest in our boys and our men. Because the more we invest in our boys and our men, that's how we can really start to taper off a lot of this violence. Because if these boys and men start to see purpose in their lives and see that there's something in the world for them, then they have an incentive not to go out here and destroy the world around them, but try to build the world around them. So that's one of the big problems we have with the man crisis. We have boys who are not being invested in, they're not being built up. Yes, we give them jobs, but we don't give them purpose and direction, and that's something that boys all need before they even get a job. Because in the case of this 23-year-old young man, again, I was 23 at one time, And I remember I was working at Food Emporium. You need to have something that you want to do, something that you want to do, and something you want to accomplish that is your primary goal, and so that you don't get all upset about these people at work that are there. One of the things I learned when I was working is never get into it with people at work, because you're only going to see them for a couple of hours, and if you work on your goals and start working on building yourself, you're not going to see these people for much longer. So you don't get into it with these people. You only focus on what you want to do with your life, what direction you want to go in, and where you want to go as a man. And that's something many boys aren't getting, and that's why we have all these men in crisis who take opportunities that are given to them and wind up destroying the world around them. I'm really sad to hear about these three young workers who lost their lives. I mean, sad to hear about this, and it's really sad because most people, they focus only on the gun issue, but we really need to focus on the man issue, and we really need to focus on helping out these men in crisis and helping them understand that there's a place and a purpose for them. And the only way we can do that is by focusing on America's broken family. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behavior of beta males, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman. Hell's Aspiring Angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers. ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.